What is up, ladies and gentlemen? It is Cjthecheesedj here, back with another Ark Insight video, and as you can tell from behind us, it's got something to do with gigantic drakes / wyverns. You can see these guys behind us. We've got each of every kind of wyvern in the game currently right behind us, and today we're going to do some extensive testing to see which wyvern is the best and what their breath attacks actually do to other enemy dinos. So first up on the list, the fire wyvern. Now, as you can probably guess, it's got a fire breath. You can see that there. Now, with each of these Wyverns, their breaths do different attacks. You have fire breath for the fire wyvern, lightning breath for the lightning wyvern, and obviously poison breath for the poison wyvern. Now, each of these do different effects, as I've said before. Now, the special ability of the fire wyverns is that it's able to do afterburn damage. Now, with the afterburn damage, this is reflected of the dinosaur's health. So you can see here, once we get underneath from our dino, we've got different dinosaurs lined up. We've got Rexes, Mammoth, a woolly rhino, a Paraceratherium, and a diabear. Now you're probably wondering, why are there so many different kinds of dinosaurs? Well, that's because the fire wyvern's breath does different amounts of damage to different types of dinosaurs. So you can see here, you'd obviously think that the Rex would take the least amount of fire damage. Well, I'm here to tell you that you're wrong. The three middle dinos, the Paraceratherium, the woolly rhino, and the Mammoth, are the dinos that take the least amount of damage from the fire wyvern's afterburn effect, which you'll see shortly. So with the fire wyvern, using its breathing fire attack, you can see there it does a base damage of 75, and then once the fire stops, it continues to do an afterburn effect, which is 75. Now this afterburn effect changes depending on the dino's level. So the higher the health of the dino, the more damage over time that will do. It roughly does 20% of the target's maximum health, which is an incredible amount of fire breath damage over 10 seconds. So, that does a lot of damage. Now, its base attack of the regular fire breath, minusing the afterburn effect, so just the straight up fire breath without the afterburn effect, does a base damage of 4,000. So you saw there we did 75 regular and then afterburn as well on the T-Rex. So 75 regular fire breath attack and then 75 over the 10 seconds that it stayed on fire. So with the Mammoth, you can see there that it does a base of 18 damage and then the afterburn effect is 30. Now, once again, this is because of its health. Because the Mammoth has much more less health than the Rex roughly having 2,000 health while the Mammoth only having 800 health, the damage over time effect is slightly smaller and not as powerful on the Rex. As well as this, the Mammoth, woolly rhino, and Paraceratherium are three of the dinos that are most resistant to the fire wyvern's fire breath attack. Now if we come over to the woolly rhino here, you'll see that the same thing that happened to the woolly mammoth will occur to the woolly rhino. 21 and only 18 damage over time, which is pretty good. So you can see there, 21 damage over time while doing the base of 18 damage, which is a lot less than the Rex, showing that they are much more resistant to the fire breath from the fire wyvern. Now once again, the same thing will happen to the Paraceratherium that we've got over here. You can see there, base damage of 18 and then 30 afterburn effect. These three dinos are the dinos that absorb the fire the best out of all the other ones. Now its regular bite attack does a base damage of 1200. You can see there we're hitting 75 on the Mammoth. And if we do our breath attack once again, just to reinforce, it only does a base damage of 18 health. And you can see the difference between the two. 30 on the Mammoth and 75 on the Rex damage over time afterburn effect, which just reinforces the fact that the more health you have, the more damage you're going to take, and our Rex is pretty much dead. Now one thing that I did notice, if the dinos were mate boosted together, you can see here we've got two Rexes down here, and this Rex is now mate boosted. This one was taking 75 damage over time due to the afterburn effect. Now because it's mate boosted, it will actually take less damage over time. You can see here, it is now only taking 50 instead of the 75, showing that mate boosting actually helps improve the defenses of dinos, just because their pheromones are going off and just going nuts and creating shields around the dinos. So if you've got mate boosted dinos and go after a wyvern, you'll take 25% less damage from their breath attack, well, from the fire wyvern's breath attack anyway. Alright, next up we're going to move on to the lightning wyvern. Alrighty, so next up we moved on to the lightning wyvern. Now this guy is much more simpler than the fire wyvern, with the fire wyvern doing different amounts of damage to the type of dinosaur you're attacking. So larger dinos take more damage, small dinos take lesser damage. This guy just does the same amount of damage to all the dinos. So you can see here, He's doing a base damage of, I'm going to say that's 16 damage. Yeah, that was 16 damage. So he does a base damage of 16 with his breath. Now that was to a T-Rex. Now if we also move on to a T-Rex, you can see there, it does 16 damage. Now he does impact damage, so the lightning beam actually has to hit with the target for damage to be done. You can see there, it's not like an area of effect like the Fire Wyvern's breath was. This guy has to actually make contact with the dino to deal damage. So you saw we did 16 damage to the Rexes. Now if we move on to the Mammoth. Okay, so you probably just saw that the Mammoth and Woolly Rhino took 24 damage. Now, while the Rexes are taking 26 damage, now I did a little bit of a boo-boo and have stuffed up here. So like I said before, these guys were mate boosted, so they were taking less damage. Now we've just claimed one of them, so this one is no longer mate boosted. And if we hit it, it'll do 24 damage. You can see there, I just had a mini heart attack because I was like, whoa, wait a second. Why is it coming up with different values? We've just sorted that out. Crisis averted, nobody panic, it's okay. So yeah, so you saw there, 24 damage across all the dinos there that we've got lined up, and we just accidentally killed one of them. Whoopsie daisy. Well, he's going to be out for the Poison Wyvern. So the Lightning Wyvern, much simpler than the Fire Wyvern. Just make sure your attacks connect, and he will do 24 damage per second. Well, according to this melee damage of a base 100, sorry. So it's dependent on your Wyvern's melee damage, obviously how much breath attack he does. But for now, these guys, he does the same to all the kinds of dinosaurs and doesn't do any kind of after effect like the Fire Wyvern. So far, he's my favorite to try and figure out. Now, once again, if we moved on to the mate boosted, you saw that these guys did take less damage than the other dinos because they were mate boosted. Once again, they take 25% less damage due to their mate boosted effects. So 24 was the damage the other dinos were taking. Now these guys are only taking 16 damage. So once again, mate boosted lowers the amount of damage you take. Okay, so next up we moved on to the Poison Wyvern. Now the Poison Wyvern is unique in comparison to the other two. Well, they're all unique in their own special little way. But this guy, his breath attack fires a glob of poisonous, toxic stuff. I'm going to call it that. There's no other way to call it. So with the Wyvern, whoopsie daisy, wrong button. That was bad. Okay, so you can see here we've got the Rex lined up in front of us. Now, if we spit at the house, for example, or at the Rex, for example, for that case, you saw there it did 105 damage. Now, because we hit the Rex directly, it was a direct attack, it did the total maximum amount. Now, you can see this house next to the Rex. If we shoot at the house, well, if we try and get our Wyvern to shoot at the house, you can see there it just did 84 damage. So because it was an indirect attack and it hit a structure or, say, a rock or something, it does less damage. So you can see there 84 damage from hitting something else and actually getting the Rex in its range of the mist does less damage than actually hitting the Rex with the mist. So you see there 105 if we hit him directly. Now once again, this dino does the same amount of damage to all the other dinos. It's not different. Now once again, this dino does the same amount of damage to all dinos. You can see the Paraceratherium over there. And because it was a indirect attack, it hit the Woolly Rhino instead of the Paraceratherium, it only took 84 damage. But if we were to hit it directly, 105. So once again, it does the same amount of damage, like the Lightning Wyvern, to a dino. Now, because of its torpor damage as well, it does torpor damage. You can see that it takes 10 torpor damage over time, which is pretty impressive. Now, one thing that I did notice while testing with the Poison Wyvern, you can see these Rexes here are mate boosted once again. The Poison Wyvern actually negates the effect of mate boosted dinos. So you can see here, these guys still take 105 damage. Well, the right one took 84 because it was an indirect attack, but they still take the same amount of damage as they were without being mate boosted. So there's no difference in terms of mate boosting when it comes to the Poison Wyvern, which can be pretty deadly if you face one out in the field. Okay, so now you're probably wondering which Wyvern does the most amount of damage with its breath attack. Well, that was a little bit complicated to try and figure out, guys, because each Wyvern has different effects and abilities and conditions that need to be met, so it was kind of hard to calculate it. However, I'm going to have to say that the Poison Wyvern does the most amount of initial straight up damage due to his impact amount, and then I'm going to say the Lightning Wyvern is a close second due to its continuous lightning breath being shot. So you saw that the Lightning Wyvern did its breath, and that breath lasted 3 seconds. Now with that, it does 30 times its lightning damage, which is an incredible 10 hits in 1 second. So that's nuts, just the amount of damage you're able to dish out in a single attack. So that's why the Lightning Wyvern is coming in a close second. while the Poison Wyvern also does the extra torpor damage, which is why he's first. However, what I can do is I can calculate their base bite attack, which is their regular one here, and once again I did calculate that, and the results were pretty minimal between the three Wyverns. However, the Lightning Wyvern did come out on top, doing the most amount of damage, only slightly though, and then it was the Fire Wyvern and the Poison Wyvern in third. So altogether, the Lightning Wyvern did slightly more base damage with its bite attack. However, its breath attack is a little bit, you can't really determine which one has the better breath attack. Now, another fun fact about the Wyverns is that they can't actually damage their own kind. So if you've got another Lightning Wyvern ahead of you, or a Wild Lightning Wyvern, their breath attack doesn't actually damage their own kind, which is pretty useful if you're a Wild Wyvern trying to escape a friendly Wyvern trying to eat you. Okay, so now, time for my personal favourite, and which one you should probably tame up first. And it's going to go to the Lightning Wyvern. The Lightning Wyvern is probably my favourite Wyvern just because the fact its breath attack is the simplest out of the three. You just need to point, shoot and hit. You can see there, and it does a lot of damage over time, which is rather helpful in terms of killing other enemy dinos and, you know, taking it eventually for boss fights. Because he's probably one of the, well, he's my favourite, pretty much. And you just need to point and shoot. Like, look at that. You can see how much damage we're doing there. 30 hits in 3 seconds, which is pretty impressive. So yeah, guys, hopefully you guys found this useful. I'm hoping I found it useful. Believe me, trying to sift through all the knowledge and everything about their breath attacks was a lot of fun and took a lot of time. So hopefully you guys found this video useful. If you did, let me know down below. But thanks for watching, guys. Catch you in the next episode. Let me know what you thought of this one. But for now, catch you later.